Joining us now, Senator Burt Jones. Senator, great to have you, sir.
Good morning, John. How you doing this morning? Good to be here.
What do these senators have to do? I mean, you look at the massive turnout in Democratic areas. The numbers don't lie. What do these two senators have to do in order to win?
That's a great question, John. I've actually gone down to Valdosta. I've been at another rally in Macon the other day, and planning on going to one in Walton County today for the two senators. And everywhere you're going, you're hearing the same thing. People are now these are your diehard Republican Party folks who are at these rallies, and they're going to go vote and everything, but they're still not happy with what's taking place here in the state, and not happy with the response that the Republican leadership has given to what we feel like was a mishandling of the election. So, but it's you gotta fight on to the next game, and January 5th is the next game, and just hope that people see the value and trying to turn out the vote as big as possible to defend off whatever mischief might be going on in counties like Fulton County.
So what do you think of the fact that they've employed RV buses and they're driving around the highly Democratic areas of Fulton County, and these are mobile voting machines? I checked the Georgia Constitution. You can add voting places, but they have to be like a state building or something. It doesn't say you can put them on wheels.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. The Secretary of State, these mobile voting booths, the 20 new drop boxes that were added around the areas that have no way of having a strict chain of custody on them. There's just so many things that has been wrong with the way the Secretary of State has run the election. And then to double down in the runoff here with some of the things that he has implemented is it's really just embarrassing for the state, and embarrassing for the person out here that does it the right way and plays by the rules all the time. So it's very frustrating, John. Very frustrating. But
any chance? I just heard Steve Bannon on. He was saying there was he thought that Brian Kemp, the governor, would fold under pressure and allow to have a special session limited to hearing the evidence of this voter fraud. I don't see that happening, Burt, based on what he said. How about you?
No, I don't see. I don't see that happening. No, I think we made every effort we could when we tried to get a petition signed under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, and we made a hard push for it when we're at what we call the biennial, which is every 2 years, kind of the introduction for the new elected officials. Had all the elected officials, pretty much all the elected officials there at one place, and made a big push for it, and were unsuccessful in trying to get into a special session. And I'll be fair with you. I'm not sure a lot of the members over in the House were totally clear on what we were attempting to do. The whole reason we wanted a special session, it was not to overturn the November 3rd election. The reason for the special session was twofold. Number one, to demand that the Secretary of State follow the election laws that are on the books and override the consent order. And then that was number one. Number two was to look at all of the findings that have come to light, with voter fraud and voter, instances of where laws were being broken, and then determine whether or not there was enough there to throw the election into doubt. So I think it was a total misunderstanding. Well, we just want to get back in session so that we could award the electoral colleges to the president without extensively looking into the elections. I mean, I believe there was probably plenty of evidence there to eventually get to that point, but you needed to have the opportunity to look at it, and we just never were given that opportunity, so which is unfortunate.
Senator Ligon, who's the chairman of the committee that you guys did for the hearing, he just released his report the other day. At the end of it, let me just read it. He said, for rectifying it's a pretty scathing document, and you can get it. Just go to Senator Ligon, Ligon.com, SENLIGON.com. I'll put it on my Facebook page at the bottom of the hour. But he said, for rectifying the 2020 election results, he said the legislature should carefully consider its obligations under the U.S. Constitution. If a majority of the General Assembly concurs with the findings of this report, the certification of the election should be rescinded, and the General Assembly should act to determine the proper electors to be certified to the Electoral College in the 2020 Pres race. Since time is of the essence, the chairman of senators who concur with this report recommended the leadership of the General Assembly and the governor immediately convene to allow further consideration by the entire General Assembly. This just out. You read this report of your committee by Ligon. I mean, it's pretty damning. I mean, the stuff that's in here is incredible. Yeah. Senator Jones.
Well, you look at this, John. That was just after one meeting.
One day,
and we had to move all kind of heaven and earth to get the one meeting, and got it done. And so that was just one meeting. Imagine if we'd been able to have a few follow-ups and at least been able to listen to the literally hundreds of people who signed up who wanted to speak. And we just didn't have time. I think we had 14 or 15 people that were able to speak that day. But just think if you've been able to give live testimony to all the people that wanted to speak. And obviously there was something that was said that hit some nerves, because how about the Fulton County election workers that we did allow to speak? Just last week. Those two ladies who were 20-year veterans of elections came to were let go this past week by Fulton County because of the testimony that they gave at our one hearing that we were allowed to have. So, I mean, there's no question that if given the opportunity and allowed to have more people come and testify for what actually happened to them on November 3rd or leading up to November 3rd, I think you would have a very different perspective on the merits of the election.
So, Senator, where do we go from here? I just had Steve Bannon on for 30 minutes saying, hey, Georgia, if they call a special session, everything will fall like a house of cards. You get all the evidence. Pennsylvania fall, Arizona falls, Trump wins. But yeah. I don't see your option here. Kemp's not going to do it. And so you've already tried the petition. And I tell you what bothers me the most about the petition. I understand when you can't get the votes, right? The way that it was misled to the public is really what is sticking in my throat like a chicken bone. And had we not published all this stuff, the lies would be out there. I mean, the number of senators who said, well, you can't do it, it's 3/5. Okay, if you really believe that, and if that's what some lawyer said, then sign the petition anyway. So what? What do you have to lose, right? That was number one. And then Ralston, the speaker, basically lied to Trump on the phone and said, oh, yeah, I can get 91, no problem, hangs up the phone and turns around and then tells everybody else, well, you can't vote for this, otherwise I'll strip you of your committee assignment. That was in the Georgia Star News that we did on Saturday night on Sunday. So you just scratch your head on this stuff. What is the reason? Why didn't they simply want to convene a special session to look at the evidence of this election? Why did you get all the shenanigans going on? Your leadership, Butch Miller, Senate Majority Leader, David Ralston, Jeff Duncan, why were they so adamant in not having this special session to simply hear the evidence out? Why?
That's a question I can't answer. When myself and Brandon and Greg and even Senator Ligon were pushing this thing early on. I mean, it was literally we were kind of looking around at each other like, are we the ones missing something? I mean, what is it that's going on here? Because so there's two. Just so the listener can understand what the petition did, and then what the rumor mill about the 3/5 majority is concerned. All right, so on the 3/5 majority, that has to do with the state constitution. And at the state constitution, there's two ways to call. Under the state constitution, there's two ways to call a special session. One is by the governor calling it, and then calling the order in which what topics he or she wants to address during the special session, or the legislative body calling it, and you do have to have 3/5 in order to call that. What we were trying to do was under the articles of the U.S. Constitution, which just meant that we had to have a simple majority under the U.S. Constitution, and it was strictly pertaining to the presidential election in and of itself. So why there was such a affront, or why there was such a headwind to not convening in either one of those is really beyond me. I think we let our voters down. I think we let our base, our Republican, conservative voter down by not even entertaining the idea of doing it. And I think down the road we will pay for it. Because I think a lot of the people who took the time to go out and vote and be engaged back in November are not going to forget how when given an opportunity to stand up for them, it was not done. So it's one of those things of, and I think in a day and time when people usually have short memories, I don't think this is going to be one of those cases, quite honestly.
I'd think that if Governor Kemp does not call a special session for next week, he's not going to get renominated. Raffensperger's not going to get renominated, your Secretary of State. Somebody told me the other day he was scheming to change parties and become a Dem. He was going to get some award of courage from former Governor Barnes or something, and then he was going to change parties at that event. I've heard that. And Jeff Duncan's a dead duck. I told Beach to run against him or somebody. I mean, all three of these, and Chris Carr, all of them are going to go. So the only hope that Kemp has to stay in power in 2022 is to call a special session next week. I don't see him doing it. I tell you, the other thing that was amazing to me is he goes to the White House. He's invited there, and he sends pictures out with his daughter, selfies in your face. I mean, the guy has stabbed the president back, goes to his Christmas party, and then sends pictures out with his daughter, which, fine, take the pictures. I get it. You're the governor. That's why you're invited. I get that. But then, why tweet him out, go in your face, right? I just don't see it. I think there's going to be an upheaval here, Senator Jones, and a lot of these people that you're dealing with now are not going to be there. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's like nothing I've seen before. The voter base is upset, and I'm not talking about these aren't your these are just rank and file business owners, school teachers, soccer moms, whatever. Just folks who are not normally who that vote, but they don't necessarily go to the Republican Party meetings or go to, the local fundraisers and things of that nature. But them to be consistent voters for you and your party, and the reaction you're getting out of people like I've described is something that I've never seen since I've been in politics or been around politics. And like I said, I think there is going to be a payback by the voter coming down the pipeline, and I hope I hope that that it's not directed at the January 5th runoff, because it is very important that we keep those 2 seats. But I definitely think that that it is coming down the line, and it's not too far off in the future.
We got to get all this done, and there's no sense in fighting for Trump, even though it's tough to do for some people. You really need to go out if you're in Georgia and vote for these 2 senators, because the alternative is Armageddon. And if we're able to give Trump another 4 years, he's certainly going to need at least a 1-seat majority. So that is why it's so critical. All right, John Fredericks Radio Network. Want to thank Senator Burt Jones for being with us, state senator from Jackson, Georgia. He's one of the Gang of Four. There's only 5 people really fighting in Georgia for Trump on the Senate side. That's Senators Ligon, Burt Jones, Brandon Beach, call him #BeachBalls, Senator Dolezal in Cumming. Got a couple people fighting in the House. But, I mean, it's a dwindling number, and it's sad. It's just sad how few people have stood up for this president here in his time of need. And all we're saying is, we want a hearing to get the evidence out. Impactful thing you said, Senator Jones, is that you look at the report that your committee put out, and all that information came in 1 day. Imagine if he had 3 days. 1 day.
Yeah, absolutely.
1 day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm out of time. I want to thank you, Senator Jones, for being with us. John Fredericks Radio Network.